I'm Renee McLaughlin, Master T-Tapp trainer and Gentle Somatic Yoga practitioner. And I am so excited that you decided to come join me in our Fit to the Core 5-day challenge. I know you are going to love these classes. So I'm going to make sure to keep the classes to under 20 minutes because I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but 20 minutes is such a perfect amount of time to get your body first warmed up, because I'm going to do some warm-ups, and then get right into all the muscle activation and the specific moves that T-Tapp uses to absolutely cinch you in and up and create inch loss in that short amount of time. So whether you're new to T-Tapp or you're experienced T-Tapper, you might find some new tricks and trips in this particular 5-day challenge. But I want to share with you just a couple of things, because with T-Tapp there are very specific words that we use and specific things we do, especially with our hands. And sometimes when we're in the middle of a class, you're not quite sure what I'm talking about. So I wanted to take a moment and just share a few of these things with you right now. So the first thing is, you're going to see for a lot of these moves, I'm going to be using the term mitten hand. What's a mitten hand? Well, that's when you straighten your hands up like this. You have your fingers together, and I'll keep saying stretch your thumbs, and that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes I'll even say scoop your mittens, and that's what this looks like. So here's when you put your hands like this. Notice the fingers are together, and then I'm going to say scoop them. So I'm really going to almost feel like I'm pulling my fingernails back, so you can see the difference. And you'll be blown away by what it feels like to go from just a mitten to a stretch mitten. You're going to feel that all the way up your arm. So that's a mitten. Here's a jazz hand. You might have remembered that in Bill Fosse's Fosse. The jazz fingers, you're spreading them as wide as you can. And again, you're going to feel that all the way up your arm, but in a little bit different way. And the last one we do is called bear claw. So you're in a mitten like this, and then you just take your fingers at that top knuckle and you pull them back. Kind of like, like a bear. That's kind of what a bear claw looks like, which is why we call it that. So you're going to go bear claw. And again, it will have a whole different feeling as you work all the way up the arms. So hopefully that will help. Also, whenever we get into our stance, and we do this all through the classes, here's what you're going to notice. Your feet, toes will be straight. Your feet are going to be 4 fingers from the heel distance. And this is where you measure it, from the side here all the way to here. So that's your 4-finger distance, and you want it at your heels. So when you do that, you're just going to kind of come down like this, making sure that it's there, and then notice that you want your feet very parallel on the side. So that will actually mean, for most of us, that we're only 3 fingers from the big toe ball joint. Now, that can feel very close together with your feet. If you are somebody that has maybe a little bit wider thigh and you feel, oh my gosh, my thighs are just touching and it's just too much, that's okay. Take them out a little bit, but only go as far as you can still feel fairly comfortable in this position. Because the closer the feet are, the more you're going to find that you can get much more activation, i.e. inch loss, right in here. So that's why you want your feet closer together. So from there, I'm going to say bend your knees. You're going to bend your knees. You can have one hand on your lower belly and one hand on your lower back. Here's the lower back. It's not here or here. It's right kind of here at the lower. And you just want to think, press down on the lower back, which will automatically make your front pelvis pull up. So it's not really a complete curl under, it's more like a neutral spine. So you're pulling it under. That'll feel really nice for most of us. And notice that if you just even focus on thinking about almost taking your tail down, automatically the belly will come up. But you'll notice in some of the classes, I put your hand like this, and others I just say tailbone down. It's the same feeling. Then you're going to take your back hand and you're going to go stretch away. And the front hand, stretch away. And we're going to have you fingers together. You're in a mitten, stretching the thumbs. Then I'm going to say to you, shift back in your heels. Now let me show you what I mean by that. Most of us, especially when we get a little bit older, I'm not quite sure why, we tend to lean our weight in the fronts of our feet. Now you can see what happens when you do that. You're going to put pressure on the knees. So anytime when you're doing any of the classes, or really anytime out in the whole world, and you start to go, oh my gosh, my knees are hurting, think about this, keeping your tailbone down, just shift your whole weight into your heels. So it's a weight shift forward and back. It's not a lean. So you're not leaning back. You're tucking your tail and you're just shifting your weight back into your heels. And it's amazing. All of a sudden, you're going to feel that there's no pressure on the knees. So the next thing, or like this, I'm just going to use my hands now, that I want you to connect to is I'm going to say, turn out from the ankle. So you might even want to go like this so you can kind of get your brain to connect to that ankle. You're going to think, take your ankles out to the sides. Now, you'll also sometimes hear me say roll to the outside of the foot. Now, because your feet are so close together, when I say ankle out, you're really going to be on the big toe and the last two toes, and that's correct. You don't want to be all the way over on the outside. That's too much, but it's going to be on the outside. So I'm going to first say ankle activate, then think about your knees, taking them out a little bit, and then from the hip, I want you to think, rotate the thigh bones out a little bit. Then, once you're in that position, you can think lifting the ribs, that's what we call it, so you're lifting your torso weight up. Remember, my hands were here though, shifting back, and everything's out. Now, in a lot of the different T-Tapp workouts, if you've watched anything, you'll see all of a sudden we always say KLT, which is knee to little toe. And so I just want you to be careful though. A lot of people when they first start think they just kind of jam their knees out, and especially if your feet are a little wider, that's not going to feel good there. So again, just troubleshooting, make sure your feet are close together, parallel in that position, and then think about taking an ankle first, then knee out a little bit, and then out at the hip. Once you're in this position, you can even take your glutes or the tushy, just squeeze just gently and press slightly forward, and it's just going to stabilize you right there. You're going to be blown away how all of a sudden you're going to feel all this just being in this particular position. You are going to feel like, oh my gosh, what's happening? You might start to get hot. I always say whenever you start to get hot, you hit that core zone, and that's gobbling up the glucose and helping you build fat. So this is the original stance that you're going to see that we're going to start with a lot. I call it like a hand away and a hand away, stretching it up tall. The last thing I want to mention is your head. You'll notice in class I talk a lot about tucking the chin back. This is why. So many of us tend to lead our movements and jut our chins forward. Kind of interesting, isn't it? So you want to think about taking that chin and pulling it back, almost like giving yourself the ugly double chin. Pull it back. And then you want to think about lifting from the top back of your head. Sometimes I have people grab their hair at the top back and pull up. Another little visualization that helps somebody taught me that a lot of people like is thinking like we have elf ears, like big ears, and you're pulling it up so the chin is tucked back in. So here's the difference. Chin out, even when we're in this position, okay, chin out, and you won't feel good. Chin back in, and you'll just feel like, oh, it's just a beautiful lift of the cervical spine, which is right here in the neck. So the whole thing, you just feel like you're lifted and up. So that's your stance. You're going to be using that throughout all the classes when we're standing. In this 5-day Fit to the Core challenge, I'm going to break it up for you. We're going to have a couple of just standing workouts. I'm going to have some floor workouts, which I love, love, love. And I might even throw in a bit of a walking workout so you get a little bit more actual cardio with your challenge. So thanks again. I can't wait to see you in these classes. Have a fabulous day. Bye.